tonight's FSTSwap call. Thank you all for joining us. We still have some folks coming in to the room, so we're going to give it just a couple of minutes. Obviously, tonight's call is important. There's lots and lots of questions. So we're not doing an overview tonight. We're really just going to open the floor for questions. You know, there's some specific questions about what's happening, what's transpired over the last 48, 72 hours. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of details that we know that haven't already been shared. But for those of you who haven't seen post in Telegram, what we know so far is that Fawn mining has been discontinued for the time being. So we don't know whether that's a temporary measure or a permanent measure. In the meantime, all Fawn is being burned in order to maintain some equilibrium in the economics of the project. Some of the reasons why I don't want to go into personally, because I really don't understand the details enough to represent them. DeFi Max may join us here in a little bit, and I'll ask him to speak to that. But that's what we know at the moment. We know that there's been a lot of movement with projects coming in and out of the FSTSwap ecosystem. So some of that's caused some instability, and so the developers have made some decisions to do what they think was best to bring stability to the project. So that's what we know. I want to just kind of turn the call over to those of you who have specific questions. If there's something that we can do, we'll do our best to address and answer anything that you guys may want to know. Hey, everybody.
Sorry. If you have a question, please raise your hand. You're not able to unmute yourself at this time, but if you raise your hand, then we'll unmute you. And we still have some people coming in the room. So we have no questions tonight.
Well, state of affairs, guys, is we are all in the same boat. We're waiting to get more information and more clarity about next steps, the next moves. I don't have any particular insights or advice to offer you guys other than let's be patient in the moment, figure out what happens next or what the plans are for what comes next, and then make the next best decision. Some of you guys are making decisions about how to address it now, and certainly that's your prerogative, and it's perfectly reasonable. We still have folks coming in. DeFi Max is joining us here. Guys, if you do have questions, Max is walking into the room. I think he's going to be a little bit mobile here, so we'll do our best to give him some space. Hey, Max, are you in a position to jump in? All right, let's give him a second. All right, there you go.
Hello.
You're unmuted. Hey, Max.
Sorry, yeah, I was muted for some reason. Anyway,
so Max, we just kicked off the call, and obviously there's a lot of uncertainty around what's happening in the project. We had a call Saturday, and a lot of folks that are on the call tonight weren't with us on Saturday. So if you could just kind of update us on the recent developments, and I know you have some particular insights into what might have inspired some of the decisions that happened here recently.
Oh yeah, so basically getting down to the gist of what's happening is that as you all know, right, the fawn farming has been stopped, and then as for the time being, right, there is no information regarding to whether the farming will be continue or it'll be stopped permanently. So that's so far that's the that's what's happening. So as soon as I hear any information regarding to the farms, I will be able to put through it through the English channel. And then as for some of the other updates, right, regarding to what's happening around the space. So recently, Paul has been putting through updates on the AMA Telegram channel. And then so some of the updates, I will mention it right now. So there is just give me 1 second here. Let me just pull up my notes. So there is a foundation that's being built. In fact, it's it's working in progress right now. The foundation is called Pangea Capital, and it was officially established. And then so what this foundation, its purpose is to responsible for the project's review, incubation, investment, and as well as channeling the coins and funds, right? While empowering our 3 tokens. Okay, so other details will be announced later down the road within the week, right? Within the week. So this foundation, the purpose again is recently we have discovered that there are two what's it called, two ecologies that was their aim coming to FSTSwap was to ultimately building their own swap, their own DEX, and then they have since yesterday they have since moved on, and then they have established their own DEX. And then as a result, what happened was they pulled out from the FIS pool, right? And then that's why we see a drop within the liquidity pool. And then but all the other projects that that's recently joined in, for example, Jockey Club, LITE, Light, and as well as Tomato, they're on board the full time. So all the recent projects are in it for the long haul, whereas some of the older ecologies has moved on. So 2 of them in particular, so Nuwa and I think Essen, those are the 2, right? So they do represent around like less than 20%, I believe. I don't have the specific number, but I believe it's less than 20% of the total liquidity pool. And other than that, there will be a partnership between the Fawn token as well as the Light project. So the liquidity pool will be open. So as long as the Litecoin exceed 50,000, they will be launching some kind of stable coin. So it's called LUSD, so Light USD, I believe. That's a word for it. And then we are able to exchange our token through this channel. And then LUSD, obviously being a stable coin and a US dollar, right? It's pegged by the dollar. And then so basically it's around 1-to-1 ratio to like USDP and USD. And then they're ready to open this LUSD pool, OSK LUSD pool, and FON LUSD pool. And then there will be a pledge, like you can pledge these coins as in a pair to mine for LUSD tokens. That's the news that's upcoming. That's what's being announced in the AMA channel. And then yeah, this is like the gist of the things that are going on right now. So I'm not gonna bore you with the other details, but this is what's happening. Is there anything else that you want me to address, David?
That's a good starting point. Just hang tight if there are any questions. think we probably have some folks with questions for you.
Yeah, I think people probably have a lot of questions. So basically, I'm getting these information from the official channel as well. So far, they're like we message the people that are in charge, but you know it's up to them to respond. But basically, we're getting this information. Like we are receiving as much information as any of you could get from the official channel, but we'll do our best to answer any of the concerns and questions if we do have the answers. So let's go ahead.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time is the time to ask the question while Max is with us. See if he has any more clarity on maybe some of the questions that you have that we ourselves don't have at this time either. Can raise your hand or raise your hand. Gina, come on in.
Okay, there you go. Good evening, everyone. I missed the first 8 minutes, so I'm not sure what transpired, but I guess, did we get an answer as to why the farms have been closed down, or that's still unsolved?
Max, did you hear the question?
Yeah, if let me just clarify if I got the question correctly. So Gino is asking why the farm has been closed down. He's asking the reason pertaining to why the farm has closed down, right?
Correct.
Right. So there, as all of you know, right, our farm, the farm coin started mining since May 1st, right? So right now being in July, the middle of July, it's been 2.5 months. And then through these 2.5 months, the team has been closely monitoring the statistics regarding to our tokens, right? So what's happening, what they observed was that what people, like some of the people that are coming from the outside, as you guys are well aware, that a lot of these tokens, right, including meme tokens such as Dogecoin and some of the other tokens that has been coming into our farm and paired up in order to mine for farm, right? So these coins are coming in, and then obviously the benefit of it is that we're getting a lot of traffic because of that, right? But but with the traffic, it comes at there, like obviously there are two sides of things, right? There are two sides for everything. So like what the developer has been noticing is that these people who are coming in are basically farming for the token for the farm, and then they're collecting, and then they're exchanging these tokens for stable coins such as USDT, right? So what's happening is that they're farming, they're collecting, and they're dumping. Okay, so this is not a very good or sustainable option for us, right? Obviously, for the 2.5 months we've been monitoring, and then it's not a, like, it's obviously it's not a very good method, right? Although we're getting a lot of traffic, but you know, it comes at a hefty price. So some of these tokens slash communities have been doing that, right? And then the tokens are coming from the outside, obviously, and then and then that's also why you see a price drop for the Fawn, right? Because if any of you remember when we started off, Fawn was stabling around $25 to $30 per coin, right? Like if you guys remember that. But as soon as these outside communities are coming in, and then they started to farm to get like to farm our tokens, these price starting to drop, and then yeah, so this is one of the reasons, right? And then the second being that you know, some of these like I said, two of the projects, right? Initially, they were considered as these high ecologies, right? But their purpose was not to is not to help us. Their, let's just say their goals was not aligned with us, the community of FSTSwap, right? So they have other agenda in mind. So in particular, these two had they were trying to build their own decks, okay? And then so I guess in a way they were siphoning I guess traffics from our decks, right? So like so as of the day, I guess the day before yesterday, they have officially left, right? And then so what happened was they had a bunch of this in the, with their project coin, right? So Nua had the Nua/Fist token in their pool, right? And then so what happened was, you know, they sold out their Fist reserve, and that's what's causing the Fist to drop, right? Obviously, you know, they have sold some of these from before, but like the day before yesterday was a significant amount, right? And then that's a second reason, right? And then the third reason is that the developer uh, is researching, like is looking at the data, and then there's obviously I don't know if you guys are familiar, but whenever there is an initial price offering or initial launching of some tokens, right? They're bound to be bots. Okay, so what these bots are doing are so they are, let's say a token start selling on the DEX to start trending for, let's say, 1 cent, right? So these bots are set up in a way to automate buying and selling actions. So they are designed to buy low and sell high. So let's say like it's a common trend to see when a coin is launching, you will see a huge pump, right? Huge pump causing the causing an upward action because a lot of people are buying the coin at the start, right? But like obviously, so these bots are designed to do that as well, right? They're the first to they're designed in a way so that they can grab the coin at its lowest value and then sell it off once they are made profit. So these profit can be like it can be set or adjusted by the people who design these bots, who run these bots, right? So let's say let's say the initial coin offering was at 1 cent. Then if I wanted to make double the amount, I would just set the exit point, the entry point to be at 1 cent, and then the exit point to be at 2 cents. So that way I would make double of my money just by buying these coins, right? So the purpose why I was mentioning bots is because that um, our developers, right? Like they obviously they're professional and they're very aware of these bots, right? And then but with Dex, right, being a very free place to for exchange and everything, they cannot eliminate these, right? So they kept a close watch, and then any of the new projects that are signing up to be operated or cooperating with FSTSwap. One of the first things that the developer look for is the ability to eliminate these bots within the project. And then, so for example, right? So just to give you a couple of examples, recently in jockey clubs, right? People have been discovering, hey, there's a blacklist for the jockey club, right? So the reason being is because once they have discovered suspicious activity, such as buying in masses and then selling it as soon as they get a profit, right? They can blacklist these bots, right, or these addresses, prevent them from heavy dumping. And then so these are just some of the preventative measures to protect innocent people like us, just trading and trying to get some, like trying to earn some money the honest way, right? And then, for example, the new recently launched Tomato also has something like this, but it was a different mechanism. So the initial IDO is has a vesting period. So what that means is that is releasing the money that we invested through a 200-day period. Okay, so we're getting like 0.5% of our initial investment every day. So there's no mass dumping, and then there's an anti-whale mechanism in place. So these are just some of the preventive measurements that these FSTSwap developer have been cooperating with the recent projects, right? So obviously the previous projects, right, that came in did not have these, right? So for example, some of the for example, the NUA one, right? They discovered that the developer for NUA, they had a bunch of coins at their own pocket, right? So they stopped that. They put like they took it away from the whitelist. People can still trade with it, but it's not officially in the swap anymore, right? So these are just some of the reasons why they have stopped this, because they're able to, you know, they're still able to trade because the DEX is a free place, right? Obviously, like if you stop trading, it actually hurts a lot of people rather than helping people that are really in need, right? So that's just a couple of reasons why they have stopped the farm. Obviously, this is not a permanent solution. It's like this is not like within the next 7 days, right? Starting from yesterday, I believe, within the next 7 days, they along with the foundation that were previously mentioned, Pangea Foundation, right? They will come up with like bunch of new solution and ways to tackle these projects and problems, and then that's why the farm has been stopped abruptly. I understand. Like I was shocked like this as well, but this is the things that it is right now. And then also to address a couple of the technical issues, right? Because I see a lot of people were asking, hey, I can't access the farm, and then I can't take out my money, right? So I right after I read this comments, read these comments, I went to the farm myself, right, and I was able to access it. So I think the reason why is because people are using different apps. So some people are using token pockets, and some people are using BitKeeps, which is like official partner for us, right? And then also, so for some people who have problems is because they did not set up their DApp, no points. So because we're on Binance, so any established directly with the Binance node would be considered safe and appropriate, right? For Bitkeep, by default, your setting is set to the nodes with the lowest latency, which is mini coin. And then if you were to swap that with the Binance one, right? Obviously, it depends on where you are, right? Within the States or Canada or anywhere else in the world, right? So it chooses the one that has the lowest latency. So if you were to go in and then change that to Binance directly, you would be able to access the farm. Okay, so that's just it's just some of the technical issues. So if anyone needs help, right, figuring out how to change the node settings so they can put their coin from the farm into the liquidity pool, then we can come up with like written instructions as to how to do that. Yeah, that's I think that's pretty much covers it. Okay.
Thank you, Max. Gino, come back in.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Back in the day, we, the group, all the people, we had a say in what's going to happen, I guess, in our group. It seems to me the developers are having a lot of say these days on what's happening with our group. And they are introducing a lot of other tokens and pairing them up with our three treasures, OSK, FIST, and FON. And I kind of see that has brought our tokens down a lot, brought our value down immensely over the last 2 months. Why all these tokens coming into the project? Why are these guys not working on our tokens? OSK, FIST, FOND, and trying to pump these tokens up with promotions, and I don't know what else they got to do. I know they have the jockey game, and there's a jock token. I know GameFi is the future, so I thought that was a good idea. But it just seems like if it was up to me, I would say no to all these other tokens, and I don't really have a say anymore like we used to back in the day. Comments?
Okay, was that still Gino or was it somebody else? Sorry.
That was Gino.
Yeah. Hi Gino. So obviously, like I said, right? I'm getting all this information from the public source as well, so I don't have all the answers. But however, like I do agree with you on some of the points that you made, right? Obviously, there sometimes we can have the best intention and then the execution of something might not be the best, right? So I can speculate and I can give you my own opinion as to why all these projects are being introduced. So it's just I guess it's just from my knowledge, right? Looking at things because I was looking at all the different projects and then some of the things that are being introduced by all the other developers. So this is not a common thing. Okay. So let's address I guess let's address the first part of your question, right? So why are these tokens being introduced? Why are all these other tokens, right? Like the tokens that we're not even like we're not even being part of, right? Like some of the tokens that we haven't even heard of, right? I totally agree. So at the first, when it was introduced, I thought that was a bad idea, right? But like think about it, like DeFi, like we're in a space of DeFi, and then this is still fairly new, right? And then I believe, from what I see, right, the developer are still trying a lot of different things, new things, such as introducing different coins into the project. right? And then they're doing like tests and trials as well. So one of the common thing that I see with all these new tokens is that they have a lot of traffic and they have a lot of token holders for these coins, right? And then another thing is these tokens have been very popular at one point. So like I did some research. So for example, they they introduced the Shiba Inu one, right? Like I consider those are the Doge 1.0 and 2.0, like these dog coins. So these obviously they have a lot of traffic and a lot of users, right? So at the start of our project, as many of you are aware, this project started from Asia, right? And then specifically in China. So a lot of these population are based in China, whereas the majority of the what would you say, the majority of the population that are into crypto space are for the Western audience, right? So we do want to garner the attention of the Western space, right? So by introducing a lot of these projects that have a lot of population and then that are well known, they are able to gain some of these traffics. But as I said before, like prior, right? Like it's a double-edged sword. These people are not in it for the long term or the benefit of our project. They are here for the free money, right? Obviously, they're like the hope was that they are able to come to our space and then learn the culture and then look at the project, and then hopefully they could bring hopefully they can bring the traffic as well as see us for who we are and see our benefit and stay in the project. Okay, so that was the goal. That's what I believe as well. So that I guess that's the first part of your question, right? And then second of all, so the recent development, right? Like we bringing in jocks, the jockey clubs and stuff, right? So these new projects, the reason why these new projects are coming in, specifically these P2E, like play to earn games, right? So these projects are designed in a way so they can divide the pool, the liquidity pool. So as you guys know, we have one of the largest pool in the DeFi space, right? So if you compare BNB slash USDT pool on Binance, we're still the number one pool for the OSK and FIS, and then the number 4 or 5, depending on which day you check it, right? The liquidity pool on the DeFi space as well. So the liquidity pool was strong, but it takes time, right? It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of capitals in order for you to see a growth with for the token, right? So part of the solution to divide up that liquidity pool so we can have a faster growth with the coin is to have different projects. For example, the Jockey Club, right? And Tomato, the recent ones, to have them take FIS as their token of choice, right? And then pair that up with their native token. So Jockey Club being Jock and Tomato being Tomato. Pair that up with FIS and then locking FIS. So that way it deducts part of the circulating supply from our FIS pool. So that way it takes pressure off our own pool, and then we will have a better growth and faster growth. And then it's also a way to protect our project. So for example, let's say you have fifth in all these little projects, right? So let's say one project takes 5% of the total circulating supply, another project takes 10, another project takes 7, and so on and so forth, right? So basically getting down to the gist of it is that you're putting your eggs in different basket. So if one of them goes wrong, it doesn't affect the whole population. Okay, I don't know if that explains it well, but like it's just um, diversifying your investment. And so in this way is diversifying the fifth pool into the small little projects, and then have these projects take, kind of supporting the whole the fifth the fifth OSK and fund community. So so to build off on that, right? Like the developer was looking into ways to not just support this, but also support OSK and fund, right? So part of the way that they did that was they established FSTSwap. I'm sure you guys have probably heard the news, right? We have a FSTSwap, and recently on Twitter, I think about 2 weeks ago, they announced that they had FSTSwap. So this FSTSwap is dedicated for projects that wants to pair up with OSK token instead of FIS. Okay, so some projects right after announcement, some projects are already putting up their ads in our English Telegram channel, but our mods kind of deleted because it was in Chinese. But there are a lot of traffics that are going into FSTSwap supporting OSK token as well. And then and then part of the strategy that are being utilized in FSTSwap is that instead of 3%, like what we charge in FSTSwap, they charge 4% for transaction fee. That 1 extra percent is going to the DEX, using that fund as a way to buy back OSK and then destroying it. So basically burning that token. So it costs the token to be deflationary, and then that in turn drives up the price. Okay, so there are these different, so all in all, there are these mechanisms and there are these projects being introduced and mechanisms that are there to support the growth of our tokens. It's just that it's happening in the background, and sometimes like these announcements doesn't register to like for example, my friend does, like, he didn't understand what it meant when they had an FSTSwap, right? So I had to explain to him like the significance of these announcements and these what these developers are doing, because I was more versed in this topic, and I was able to explain it to him. So once once he heard the explanation, he understood it, right? So the same thing that I'm doing right now is that obviously people have a lot of questions. I just have a better understanding, and I'm trying to explain it to you guys. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the two parts of your question. Did I miss any points? Like if you want to reiterate, I would be happy to answer the rest of your questions.
Well, I kind of get the gist of what you're saying. What I'd like to see, and I think I speak for a lot of people here, is it would be great to understand in this project who the main characters are. I know you have us here at the international community. We're moderators, admins, we're a tight group, and we've been here for a long time. But then we have Paul, And then we have yourself communicating via the developers. Okay, so when is it time where we are investors get to know a little bit more about who the developers are, what their plans are? I know you have AMAs and Paul explains from time to time, you know, on his Telegram group, but I think it's time that we get way more transparency, especially here in the international community. We would like to know who the developers are, and it would be great if the developers can actually come on once in a blue moon and introduce themselves and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is our goal. This is our vision. You're either with us or you're not. At least we, the investors, have a choice to make at that point. Right now, we do have a choice. We're in this project, but we didn't have a choice when we seen all these tokens come into the project. So as an example I gave earlier, that's just one little example. So all I'm trying to say is, when is that day going to come for this group where we're going to grow up and be big boys in the market and have full transparency on who's working this project? Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Gino. Great question. Like, this is what I like to know as well, right? Just a little bit of background, right? Like, I like Paul started just like one of just like rest of us. He was only part of the community member, right? And then he used to go on these calls, and then he used to come like go on these calls and then with us, and then we had Annie, and then we had other people, right? Just translating, and then we like occasionally we would have like these speakers from the Chinese community come on to these calls, right? And then I think we're pretty familiar with that. If we started with the like we started like last year, right? And then you know, some events happened, and then Paul, I guess by the luck of a draw or like anything, right? Paul was contacted by the part of the developer group, right? So now he is operating as the business development part of the team, right? So it used to be that there was a channel that that was, you know, that people of this community was able to contact the developer, and then there used to be a lot of our members within this group, right? But that group has since been disbanded, right? So I no longer has access to talk with these developer. Like, I will send them messages, but they won't reply. That's the thing, right? So for me, right? For me, like I have to get these informations from different, like for me, for example, I will have to hop on different Telegram groups from different nodes, right? And then listen in on some of their calls, and then to be able to understand what I was just telling you a moment ago. So for me, like like this is very difficult to get an answer on what you just asked, right? Personally, I would like to know who is behind it, who's the decision maker, right? Like, I would love to know that as well, and then to be able to, you know, have a talk with them, you know, and then, you know, representing the interests of our community as well. Because for the past couple weeks, right, I feel like we've been neglected, and then as well. So I share that sentiment, and but I'm looking at this as as an investor, right? So far, like from what I've seen, they are doing at least what they're doing is on, it's not, although it's not through the consensus of all the community members, but what they have done so far is in our interest. So I'm very thankful for that. But I would like to have more transparency as well. And I do agree what you said. So yeah, yeah, I won't be able to answer these questions, but this is as best I can answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Max. K-Wall, you are up next, and then Crypto Quint Frank.
Hi, thanks for taking my, or thanks for Max for answering those questions. I guess I'm in the same boat as Gino. Feeling a bit disconnected. I've been busy, but I've been trying to monitor some of the chat groups, or at least our group. Just feeling disappointed a lot that a couple of questions I posed in there are erased, and those questions are not meant, like they're simple questions, you know, like, hey, why did, like this morning I asked about the project on the farming, why did that end? And I don't know who erased it, but I think this is going back to Jeannie's point, that, you know what, the transparency that we had before, there's more layers between us and the developers. We don't know who the developers are, like Gino said. Prior to the previous group, let's say Pangu, we knew who was behind the project. We knew the 6 people who started it and so forth and that. And we had a lot of information that was coming to us from China at that time via Annie and so forth and that. A couple of calls that are in the beginning was with the one of the founders. And I understand another group now that are trying to revive the original OSK project on Tron. And I guess they're getting a little bit of looking for direction, but I'm not seeing direction from our the admins and whoever you guys, operators and so forth. That's when I look at your guys' name and there's an admin on there, whatever. So you guys are monitoring this group, you're monitoring the chat. If you see something in there that somehow you guys feel that, hey, this is going to malign us, where you guys are racing. A couple weeks back, I asked a question, what is we on Fist, and there was a DAO one. I just asked a simple question. What's the difference of them? No answer. You guys erased my message. First,
K-Wall, you're going in and out, and we can't really hear everything that you're saying, so we won't be able to give you a good response. So I don't know if you can get to a better place for signal.
Yep, I can. Just let me know if I'm not, sorry, I wasn't sure I was going in and out. You guys can
That's
hear
much
me a
better.
little better now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll just step out of my room. Okay, so I'm not sure what you guys call it, but the gist was my thing was, there is a disconnect the group is feeling, similar to what Gino said, and there's layers of, how would you say it? There's layers that have developed between the individuals who are part of this group as investors, and now we have admins and so forth. You guys are controlling the conversation, and sometimes that controlling some questions out there. Legitimate questions should be legitimate answers. You know, it's not like, hey, that you guys are going to provide a wrong answer or the right answer, just some sort of clarity and so forth. You know, Max, you know, he's trying to answer his questions, but at the same time, even Max mentioned, hey, listen, there's layers between him and the developers. And so he is listening to his AMAs from different areas, and then he's trying to relay information to us. But that's not intimate knowledge. That's not, that just maybe hearsay, or this is what they told him, but we're not getting a clear picture and so forth and that. And I think it's the onus is on the international group here to start providing some better answers to people, because sooner or later, I mean, why the developers, like Gino said earlier, are bringing on all these projects? And Max mentioned it's like a trial and error. Well, no, we shouldn't be trial and errors. You know what? Let's focus on our 3 tokens. Let's focus on what's going to happen with the PGF NFT card. Is that going to go back towards the movies? Are we going to start getting some more airdrops on that? You know, we were told, hey, this is going to be like a bit of a legacy coin, if I'm using the wrong word, where, you know, a generational wealth will be created by this coin. And we haven't heard anything about that at all. And so I don't know, and I hope this doesn't offend the mint. Are you guys part of this too, working with the developers? Are you guys getting anything out of this project at all financially? And I think it's a legitimate question. It's something you guys got to provide that, you know, if you guys are not, because, you know, some of us might be thinking, hey, you know what? Why are you guys controlling the conversation on the Telegram group? You know, is it to your benefit to delete messages that you guys think that's going to cause some flood, fear, uncertainty, and doubt? Are you guys afraid of the truth and so forth? I don't know. You know what? I don't want you guys to feel offended. Like Gino said, let's put on our big boy pants and ask these questions and provide answers to the group. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening, Kamal. Thank you for raising these questions and concerns. And I believe that actually speaks for a lot of people over here, right? Including myself, because some of the sentiments that you feel, I felt it too, right? And then it feels like there are, you know, there are layers in between you guys, right? Like I had to go through different Telegram channels just to get some information, right? And I relate it back to our English channel. It just happens that I speak 2 languages, right? And then it felt like the developer should have more. They should have put more effort towards our international community, as opposed to just focusing on their Asian market, right? I totally feel that way because I have to jump through a lot of hoops just to get some information, right? And then I feel like this should be better related. Just to answer some of your concerns, right? No, we're not getting paid at all for doing the admin part. Like these are all voluntary. And then some of us, for example, David here, along with the rest of the English international group, right? They themselves have devoted themselves and their tokens to establish a English node, right? I'm sure everybody knows that, right? And then they themselves pledge the tokens from their own pocket, okay, to establish a node. And right now, the nodes are, as you know, the nodes are already discontinued. They didn't no longer produce any rewards. And then so think about that. They are not gaining anything from this. And then in fact, they have, you know, put themselves forward just so that we can have a voice. Our English international community can have a voice within this project, right? And then these are all volunteers taking their times out of their own livelihood and then trying to help the community as best as they can. And then the reason why sometimes these questions are not being answered is because they don't have answers themselves. Like us, we sometimes these answers doesn't come to us. We have to go find it. And then, as you know, there's a language barrier between a lot of people here. And then sometimes they have to get these information from, for example, from myself. And then, for example, I have to go to a couple other Telegram channels just to find these informations, right? And then I have to translate it back into English from, and then sometimes these are in audio forms. So they were through a call, right? And then I personally have to spend time to take notes and then translate it back into English. And then for our mods and amends and other people to have to have a sense of what's going on. So these are, like, again, we're not getting paid at all. Some of us, like, we haven't even talked to the developer once, some of us, right? This is what's going on. And again, like I said, I felt the same sentiment. Like, we should be better represented, and then the information should be better related to us. But it's been very difficult. And it takes a lot of time, right? And then I totally feel what you're saying. And then there's not a lot that I can say about this, that this is the truth.
Yeah, I'll chime in a little bit here, Max, and thank you so much for just being with us tonight, answering questions. And I'll just say there have been some definite frustrations in the evolution of the project, some that we've all experienced together. And there's some things that those of us who have volunteered our time and our effort to help the broader group, Max can tell you some of the conversations I've had with him that expressed intense frustration with some of the ways that the developers have handled communication in the project, or lack thereof. And we try not to bring that to the broader group, because it's part of the nature of this, comes with the territory, dealing with people, managing projects and so forth. But it has been frustrating. And I think the experience that we're having today could be experienced differently if some things are handled differently. And some of that may simply be, the cultural differences and how communication is handled. And I'm not here to make excuses. I think it's okay to say there's some things that are happening that we're not happy with. I think it's responsible for us to say that and to make a decision about whether or not, what we do as a result of the answer to those questions. And so certainly part of what our intention was and what our thought was is that the action and the commitment of becoming a node in this community is a way of ensuring or participating, being actively participating, being an active participant in the success of the project. And so that was our intention, was we're already doing the work, we're already showing up, supporting the community. What can we do that further bolsters the likelihood of our success? And the node mechanism was offered. And so we made a decision to pursue that. And there is a financial remuneration for being a node. It's all explained in the white paper. So that's there. And that's nice, because outside of that, it means that you're working for free, and that costs money. So beyond that, there's no relationship that we have special with the developers. One of the things that's different in this room is the involvement of people that are unknown to me and to the people that that are involved in moderating the room. And there is a bit of a different culture in the room, and some of it's understandable. It's a difficult line to walk, because you want the room to be a place where people can come find out about the project and get excited about it. And you have to balance that with people have genuine questions, and those questions deserve attention and answers. And sometimes that can be difficult to determine, is this a genuine question, or is this somebody trying to, whether intentionally or unintentionally, bring fear and doubt into the project? And at the end of the day, there are human beings that are making these decisions, and sometimes they're being made by people that don't know the people asking the questions. It's one of the things that's a little bit different about where we've been just in this part of the journey. So yeah, there's certainly, we apologize if this part of the transition has been bumpy. It's been bumpy for all of us. And I think it's important that we continue to ask the questions that are coming up. Gino, you've got great questions. Lots of you guys have fantastic questions. And we've got to make a decision. If this is a project that we want to succeed, how do we contribute to its success? And certainly asking the developers to make certain changes is an important part of that. and holding them accountable to those changes is an important part of that. Again, it's what motivated us to become a node. Nodes were part of the voting mechanism. And so it's really important to me personally what happens next and how the development team navigates us through the changes and challenges that we're seeing right now. I think the project still has amazing potential and amazing fundamentals, but like any business, you can have I've seen hundreds of business plans, great ideas. There's tons of great ideas that don't take off because at the end of the day, it's in the execution. And it's very, very difficult to take a group of people from all parts of the world in a system and in a project that's brand new to all of us, and to coordinate their activity in such a way where we're not exploiting one another, we're really supporting one another. We're doing it in a way to participate financially. We're doing it by sharing the project. Like we're doing all the stuff that we know makes it work. It's a very difficult thing to pull off. And so I think we've done a lot to get us to this point, but we've got to keep moving forward. And what can we do that helps us to do that? I think that's the important question. That if we're in this project, then I would encourage those of you guys who show up on these calls is consider if it's worth being here, how can I be more active in seeing that it becomes successful? Frank, come on in.
Hello, David. How's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
How is everyone? I hope, first of all, I would like just to let you know I'll be real gentle, but everyone on this call has put their blood, sweat, and tears really to move forward, to push towards the generational wealth and passive income, and in hopes that our family and friends can join in on that rise, and we go through ups and downs. I'm sitting back looking, and we can say, well, I don't know, and I don't have access, and you can say that at $100 million, at $200 million. We're now at $700 million down. It is completely unacceptable for us not to know what's going on. Also, the centralized way of information, the way information is being centralized, it doesn't allow the community members to make an educated decision, because many probably, if they had access to the correct information, would have put in the USDT and avoided this fall. This is the dangers of centralizing information and not having the intellectual community have access to it so they can make their own decisions. And then we're coming to, first we're going to mine for 7 years, and then we're going to mine for 3 years, and then party over, oops, out of time. We're no longer mining. So it has no rhyme, it has no reason, and we're rolling like the wild, wild west. And it's dangerous not to have information because we're making decisions without the full picture. I remember I met DeFi Max. Max, how you doing? We talked about how he looked at the Moda videos and it inspired him to speak Mandarin and understand Moda. It was different back then. And you said we had a voice. The first thing, well, who took our voice away? That was never the consensus, number one. Number two, how do we get in the position of not accessing the devs and decisions being made for us? And number two, we're now $700 million down. In any hedge fund, you can ask Al Honore, you'll be fired as a hedge fund manager when you lose a fraction of this money. How are you still quiet, not talking to the community? And how are you still not being accessed? I don't think it's fair. As a matter of fact, it's outright robbery. And you're saying you're making decisions for us, and you're making the same decisions, which leads to a loss of $700 million, and nobody knows why. I have other information of why, but I only release it when I have complete proof. There's different things going in Asia, but someone decided that we can't talk to Asia because we're not smart enough to make decisions for ourselves. See, that's dangerous. We need to be able to have access to those things so we can make complete decisions. $700 million is too much to have any excuse for where the money's gone. How come we were warned before? How come nobody told us to freeze the assets? How come we don't know? That's completely unacceptable as long as we've been together. and as much work as we put in. Where are our assets? Where are they? You know, so my question to DeFi Max, do you know if this is an approved project, the FSTSwap project by Moda? That's my question to you, DeFi Max.
Hi, Frank. How are you?
Fantastic.
So like this is like I'm reading, I'm still processing what you're saying, right? As you're saying like there are what 700 million missing. Like sometimes like I'm looking at these figures and I'm trying to digest where do these numbers come from? Like can you explain? Like I'm a little bit confused.
Yes, sir, I can. When you hit info in the FSTSwap DApp, all the ecology combined to $1 billion. The total ecology, when we opened the DEX May 1st, we're at 1.1 billion, fluctuated between 990, 1.1, 1.4. Do you know what I'm speaking to? When you go to
do you mean the statistic page where it shows like the
info?
recent up and downs of I guess of the liquidity pool?
It'll say info.
There's like a
says
graph,
liquidity.
right?
And it says liquidity
And
right
then
there.
yeah, and then at the bottom it will have a bunch of pairs regarding how much liquidity are in. I
Right.
guess
That's correct. That's correct.
is that one you're talking about?
That's the one.
Okay, so I don't so looking at this information page, right? So
Right.
as you have said, these are like our liquidity pool from our DEX is made up of all these different pairs, right? That
That's
have
correct.
decided to join the project. And then so for what reasons we don't know, right? So they're like obviously like I said before, different projects have different reasons of joining into our DEX. So some of them are because they want to build a stronger community, and some of them is because they want to for lack of a better word, they want to be a leech and then kind of siphoning our population kind of, and then going off to build their own decks. That's what the previous two projects that I mentioned, that's what they decided to do, right? And then like you said, right, like these projects, they themselves have put their money forward to kind of contribute it into the overall success or the overall number for FSTSwap, right? So the number is not just us, but from all these projects. So for example, like I mentioned before, right? Like these two big projects, pulling out, right? They account for a little bit less than 20% of our total liquidity pool. So if you're going by a billion, right, that would be 200 million. So we're, like we can all do the math here, right? So it's not like we own all these liquidities, but it's the joint effort of all these projects coming together, right? So with different goals in mind, like they, sometimes we pull out, right? And then so it's I don't want to say misleading, but it's just another way to look at this. So rather than looking at, we are starting with 1 billion, then look at it as, they are just here for like for their temporarily needs, and then once we have met that needs, right, they move on.
It looks like the needs have been met, but here's the difference right here. Number one, you said some important things that these people, you didn't know their intentions. Number two, since you control the information, you're responsible for the gate, and you let these people in to take from us.
I totally
You were
understand what
responsible for the
you're.
gate, and you let them in to take from us by not knowing their intention, by not knowing what they do. And it would be nice, but they're attached to our ecology, and our prices go down when they come in and leave with false intentions, not for the consensus. And that is the
Now,
responsibility of
I
the person who
understand
decided to centralize
what
the
you're
car.
saying.
You understand what I'm saying? You centralize information, and we can't make a decision. Only you have access. So therefore, we suffer 700 million loss. Yes, it's our loss because look where our portfolio is when they left, and look who let them in the gate.
See, this is a part I think where me and I guess right now you have a different opinion, right? Obviously, we're
100%.
kind of, yeah, we're kind of entitled to our own opinion, but
Sure.
like here's what I have to say, right? So the developers, right? In a sense, when you're trying to explain it, they're kind of like a gatekeeper, right? They're kind of like the gatekeeper to, and then we're kind of like the people who are living in the community. And then what you're saying, if I understand it correctly, is that they decided to let outsider come into our community and rob from us. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Correct.
Okay.
No, it's what has happened. You can look at the numbers and you can look at everybody's portfolio. It's not
Right.
opinions, brother. It's straight facts that we're experiencing.
Now here's what we differ, right? Like so like when I say things, I don't present them as facts, right? I don't present opinion as facts, but here's my opinion on this matter, right? So these projects, right? Like no matter like you could be the smartest person in the world, right? And then these obviously these people who are working on the project, these developers, they're very smart, right? Like we can agree on that part, right? In terms of
Oh,
the text they would prefer to like in terms of the
oh,
technology, in terms of the you know the publishing things, like the things they publish, they have merits in their own space, right?
it's relative to smart and what company you're in. The others say they're just copying source code on GitHub. But go ahead.
Okay, so again, it's another things like if you have seen like what they've done, right? What they're done, like on the speed and on the scale to which they're doing, right? It's no amount of copying without relative knowledge could they put such a thing forward, right? Like this is where we different, right? Like I don't think we like I personally I don't know codes, right? Because I don't know codes. I don't work in this field, right? But looking at the speed which you're moving and then looking at how far they take the project, I would say they're very smart in their own right. Sorry about the noise. I'm kind of outside,
No
but
worries.
yeah. So here's the thing, right? Like sometimes like you could be the smartest person, but you can still you're still up for like you can still get duped, right? But I'm not saying they got duped in this instance, right? Like from what I'm seeing it is that these people these not like ill intention people, right, coming into our community. Obviously we're a part of the community, right? And then they try to take they have different motives. They have different motives, and then it looks like they're taking away from us, but in actuality is that, think about it, like when they decided to to pull out, our fist was down in like around $1.20-ish, right? Think about when they got into the project, how much liquidity they're providing, right? Our fist was around like $5 to $6, right? Like think about like if their intention, right? If their intention was to take from us, they should have done it sooner, right? Like this is just like the way I look at these numbers, right? Like why not dump the project while it's high, right? Why not dump the coin while it's high, and why do it when it's like almost under $1? I don't see how that makes any sense,
$1
right?
billion down to 300 million. That's high. That's $700 million gone. Smart, I agree, but smart has absolutely nothing to do with, do you have my best interest in heart with your smartness? And from the actions, it says no. From what they have in plan, it says no. My question to you is this an approved motor project?
What, sorry, can you elaborate on what you're saying?
Mr.
Like,
Chai,
I don't understand
does
that.
Mr. Chai support FSTSwap? Moda, Mr. Chai is what I'm asking you directly.
You're asking the questions which I do not have the answer for, right? So remember what I said? Uh, sometimes I don't have all the answers. These are, these are the answers that we can only ask the developers themselves, right?
Fair enough.
So this is maybe not the best questions to ask me, but we're speaking about the intentions of these developers, right?
Yes.
Which I don't think, I don't think either one of us has any merits to speak about them, right? Like, because judging from your perspective, they're doing everything destructive, right? But from what I'm looking at, they're trying their best to do, to service the communities, right? So I think it's a difference of opinion, right? So on this matter, I think we can agree to disagree, right?
Well, I agree with you, Max. Just one more thing. When we said merits, the only thing I disagree with you is you don't know my merits. And I will invite you to my call when I have it so you can listen to my merits and what they have to say about information that you apparently don't have access to. I have access to it. So I will
Okay.
invite you to the call when it's ready so you can ask your questions and they'll let you know the things that you don't know and they can explain why FSTSwap stopped. They let me know, but
Okay.
I want black and white proof before I show anybody because I'm not about spreading FUD. It's about truth, and we need our values back. So come to I love my community. I can explain a little more deeper than what you guys have access to, and I have the people, my merits, explain it to you, the ones who are valid. And maybe you can answer questions there because all of us deserve to have our values. We should not be blinded, blindsided. $700 million is too long of a fall for any warning. Nobody say anything. That's just too much, in my opinion. And you let too many wolves in the back door on a community that's been here working hard and carrying everybody on their back. I don't think that's fair. So we need to have access to protect ourselves.
Frank, can I ask you something? How do you what channels do you have you come to get these informations from? Because they are, as we all know, right? These developers, right? They are very secluded, right? They pick and choose who they communicating to, right? And then personally, I've sent them private messages which they have not replied, right? And then so I know they're not releasing the information to everyone, right? So how, what are the channels that you're obtaining these informations from? Just that one simple questions, and then I will be all ears. So if you by the time you wanted to present this information, I guess to us.
Oh, I've been putting it out. It's not been a secret. I've been saying his name the whole time.
Sorry?
I've been saying his name the entire time. I'm direct to Moda's team. So come here, come talk to him, come ask him, come speak. And then we can all get our answers together, as a family. So we can hear the truth and actually see if we protected themselves or see if I'm just a full, complete idiot. That could be a case too. I'm open for that. But I want to discover my values back. I think our community deserves the wealth back. And I'm here to do everything I possibly can for all of us to get it back. We deserve it. We completely do. So I invite you to my call. When it's scheduled, I will let you all know. Please come. I truly invite you. Bring your hard questions, your soft questions, your crazy questions, please, because we need to know. This is unacceptable. $700 million. We do not deserve it. None of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I'll add a couple comments to this. So if you look at total value on Uniswap, they're down $2 billion with a B. Look at total value on PancakeSwap, they're down $1 billion. The market's down. The value of a liquidity pool at $700 million So it's the difference in the value of the asset sitting in that pool. If they're $100 and they're now $50, the value of that pool is going to be cut in half. So a lot of it is just the effect of where the market is. Overall market is down. DeFi is down something like $2 trillion. So I appreciate the question, and I certainly agree that we should always position ourselves to ask difficult questions of the people that we're entrusting to drive the project. But I will pump the brakes on the idea that there is some nefarious activity. And since it's been brought up, the reality of what's challenging this project is that there are these conversations that are happening that are suggesting that there's a side versus another side. There are perspectives about where this project should go. There's 4 or 5 different swaps that have evolved from the original Pangu, called all kinds of different things. And some of those projects are growing themselves by defaming other projects. Guys, you all have the ability to make the decision that you feel is in your best interest. And I encourage you to do that. If what you've been experiencing here with FSTSwap is where you want to be, make that decision, go with it. If you want to do something else, make that decision, go with it, and feel fantastic about it. But I'm going to encourage you not to do it because you're responding to something in fear. Let's get all the information. Let's have these discussions. Let's continue to show up. And if we're going to work together, let's make sure that we're all contributing to that. Your questions are a part of it. Your attendance is a great part of it. All of it really matters. Gino, come on in, sir.
Yes, sorry, very quickly. I think, well, number one, thanks to everybody that shows up on these calls week in, week out. We've all suffered immensely. And David, you're right, the whole market is down completely. We got that. But we're really not really concerned about the other markets. We're really concerned about FSTSwap. And this is where our project and our dollar value lays. And I want to applaud Frank for coming out with his research, because it is important to see the entire picture. We did move over from Pangu because Paul told us this is where the project's going, and it's going to be great on the Binance Smart Chain. And then we've seen a lot of great things here, you know, the liquidity pool, we were mining, we did a lot of great things. But we also seen the dollar value leave our project via the liquidity pool and through other tokens. So I just want to, if Frank has this information and he's inviting everybody to hear this information, he mentioned Moda. Moda was the leader of Pangu. He came out, he was one of the guys that was on top, if you can recall. And things were going really, really well. Everything was going up. And then Moda disappeared. And then we moved over into the Binance Smart Chain. So what I think Frank's trying to say here is that he wants to come to the table so all the community members can hear the whole picture. And then the community can make a decision on their own on what they want to do. So I applaud Frank for being courageous enough to come to the table, and he's done his research, and we haven't heard really what happened since February. And I think that's kind of wrong. So I think I think it would be really good for Frank to show his cards eventually. I don't want to speak it on your behalf again, Frank, sorry about that. But I do think that that's very important. And I think the community should listen. And then, like he said, if he's wrong and he's crazy, then hey, you're wrong. It's not the end of the world. I mean, hey, these developers have been wrong a lot in the last 3 or 4 months. So yeah, I'm all ears to listen to what Frank has to say. And everybody else should be as well. And that's it. So I applaud you, Frank, for coming out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gino. I have a question. I'm looking for a person like AJ said, somebody that's that's got a background in this space. Just correct me if I'm missing something here, but for me, it feels like our reaction, at least what I'm hearing in this conversation, it feels like we're ignoring the impact of the market around us. And that's not to be insensitive. I'm in this project, but we're talking about, we're evaluating the merits of the project. And this is aside from some things that I've already stated, I think should be addressed, but we're evaluating the merits of the project in the middle of the market being in the condition that it's in, and saying this project should perform better, almost with ignorance around all of the other factors that are driving just the global market around us. And I get why we want our project to perform no matter what. The story of consensus and all of those things matter. But I'd love for somebody that can speak to that to jump in and just share a couple of thoughts.
I don't think it's ignorance of not seeing what's going on in the market. As I mentioned, you make a very valid point. So that's not coming to the table with ignorance. That's someone that's agreeing with you. And I'm not saying that you're calling me ignorant, but you're saying that maybe our overall outlook is to ignore the fact that the whole entire market is down. I think it's maybe there's a touch of ignorance not to listen to the full picture here on what's happening in our own bedroom. So this is why I said, I think Frank
Gino,
makes it, yes.
I have a specific question for you.
Sure,
and
sure,
for anybody.
Sure.
Do you agree that the value of the liquidity pool is going to decline if the prices of the coins and prices of the coins and the liquidity pool decline?
Of course.
Okay, so for me, that means the question I'm asking is, what's causing the value of the coins to go down?
I'll tell you.
No, but let me just finish for a second so you understand why I'm asking what I'm asking. What I'm hearing you say is, I'm concerned that the value of the liquidity pool is down. Well, the value of the coins are down. And the first question I would have is, do you have a point of reference for how much the drop of, when we talk about the liquidity pool going from 1 billion to 300 million, what was the price of the coins then? What's the price of the coins now? And what does the difference in price account for in terms of the drop in the value of the liquidity pool? Because at that point, that's simply just market movement. That has nothing to do with poor management, decision-making, project leaving the protocol. It's literally just math. Would you agree with that?
That's where we differ.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, that the liquidity pool and the token value going down affects liquidity pool and vice versa. We all get that. The problem here that I think you're forgetting is the fact that not only our group here, because I do go to the Chinese groups and I translate all day long. I got all the time in the world to do so. So I go to the Chinese groups, I do my Chinese translation on Google, and I hear what the Chinese community is saying in the FSTSwap groups. Okay, so what we're having here is we do have people that are disgruntled. Not everybody, but we do have some people that are disgruntled. You're never going to make everybody happy. We know that. But there's people that are a little bit disgruntled. And I'm going to speak on my behalf, like I spoke this evening earlier on. It all goes down to the transparency of the project. And that creates fear when there's no transparency. Therefore, the dollar value goes down on the tokens. If there was more transparency, and I know, David, you come to other calls and you're great, man, because look, you're here, you're standing up like a man. We're part of I'm a moderator now, I'm here, but we have a transparency problem and we have a communication problem because we don't know and we don't have a say because the developers are running this project. So that's the concern. And that to me is what happened, is the reason why the token has gone down. alongside with the global markets. We understand that, but you have to acknowledge that has been a driving factor as well.
100%.
That's my point.
Gino,
That's my point.
Gino,
Yeah.
I appreciate you answering that, because on 100% I agree with you on all points. And the reason I wanted to get to the heart of that was it sounded like at some point in the discussion there was some insinuation of nefarious intent on behalf of the developers. And I'm before we get there, I think we can look at the numbers and say, okay, the numbers tell us a story. Now, are they telling us a story that the developers are robbing us? Or are they telling us a story of market movement, maybe poor management, poor communication, the effect of a poorly run project? And for me, before I jump to there's a boogeyman in the closet, I'm going to look at the numbers, and I'm going to look at the experience that you just articulated, and I totally agree with you. At the end of the day, the value of our coins are dropping. Why is that? What can we do about that? And what's the message that we're taking back to the developers? Because if we're going to gather and talk about all the things that we're disgruntled about, at the end of the day, we've got to then be able to come to consensus. We only have power if we can go back to them and say, this is what we want to have done. Because if we get together and talk about all the things that we're unhappy about and all of the other things that are wrong, we're not moving the needle forward at all. So let's ask the hard questions to one another, with one another, but let's leave this with, say, what's the solution that we want to see have happen here? Where our money is. Frank?
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. Let's ask the hard question. But like I said, I was in the same position. We all need to be loaded with all the information, and then we can really ask a hard question. You still don't have all information. Come get it all. And then we all get together and ask the questions and make those decisions. This is not FUD. This is not fear. And this is from the source, the nucleus of creative project. This is not hearsay left, hearsay right. This is the wife of Moda and a team who came to meet with 7 translators to make sure we understood the truth. I think we deserve
Wait,
to give
sorry,
ourselves
Frank,
a chance.
just to cut you short, are you saying
ahead,
you're
go ahead.
not getting it from the person himself, but you're getting it from the wife?
The wife, Moda's wife. Moda can't
Why
speak
are
right
we-
now because he's under sanction with the Chinese government. He can't speak. He will be speaking soon. But Moda's wife has power of attorney. So come check it out. And she's never had a conversation with Paul. So
Sorry,
it's not
Frank,
my words.
this
It's,
is
oh, and DeFi Max, please come to the call. Please. So they can
hey,
ask you
Frank,
questions too.
just to let you know, right? Like this has been like debunked already. Like because the other side, when I say other side, I meant the DAO group, right? They were using Moda's wife as a, as a kind of like they're trying to use her as a,
And
like
the PG Tech team. I dig it. Come ask your questions. The PG Check team. I want you to
And
ask your
then
questions and
this,
please put them in check if you can. If they wrong,
yeah,
please
no,
confirm it.
they have already done that in the
Not with
past, like,
America, because you blocked the information. So if you can do it again, I invite you. I implore you. You blocked the information. So if you can definitely debunk all this
what do you
information,
mean you
bring
blocked
if
it?
you
No,
can
no,
do it.
no, like,
I'm inviting you to the
the
call.
information, like, if you have heard
I'm
the
verifying
Christmas
the
call, which
people.
is the last call, which, no, I'm talking about the call, right before the new year, before 2022, right? And Moda said, like, that's when I last heard from him, right? This was like the call from last Christmas. Okay, so it's around that time, right? And then specifically he mentioned, right, like maybe I can get the recording of the call and then get it translated somehow, right? Or you can get somebody else you trust to translate the calls. But like within there, like that man specifically said, anybody who is trying to use his name or his like his name as some sort of merit to speak on behalf of him is trying to do harm. And the man said it himself, and then it's in the call, right? And then he I guess in a way, he himself foresee what was happening, right? Like what's going to happen. There are too many community leaders trying to be the head, trying to be the leader, right? And then he foresaw this, and then so he said that in that call specifically, which I listened to in live as well as in the recordings several times, right? And then he specifically told everyone, they're like, in order to for our community to move forward, we have to garner the attention of the Western crypto community. We need people from the Western hemisphere, right? Because up to that point, the majority of the population has been Chinese, right? And then some people, from overseas, but the majority of the population has been Chinese. And then he notices that, like, because he's been to some of these private calls, right, incognito, right, and then he listened to these calls. There are too many people trying to be the leaders, right? So he foresee this, and then he said that specifically in that recording, saying anybody who's trying to use him in his name is going to do harm to the community. And then here comes another community, and then I like this person who call herself, I guess, the Moda's wife or whatever, right? Like I'd been to one of the calls, right? And then if you I guess you've been listening to it, right? Like, because when I listen to her in the native languages, I like, it's the way I well this is hearsay now, but like the way she speaks does not translate confidence, and it just sounds mental to me, right? Again, like, I'm referring back to the recorded calls from last Christmas, what the man himself, the community leader founder, said, right? Again, you can check this with anybody who has the recording calls, right? And then you'll be able to, find someone who can, you trust, and then translate that word by word to the best of their ability. And then the man himself says that, right? And then I don't get why, this person is coming, like, speaking on behalf of him. And then does that person hold any merits? Like, this just sounds crazy to me. Like we're speaking, like we're trying to compare developer who has been developing the swap, the DEX, right? Which the man's plan, the 3-year plan, he mentioned it himself. We haven't we haven't deviated from the plan at all, right? Like, these developers have been following this man's vision. We're moving into our 2nd year of the 3 years plan, right? Which is establishing our own DEX, right? And attracting and garnering the attention of the Western Hemisphere. And then we are going to, in October the 1st, we're going to have our own blockchain, which is the 3rd year plan. I don't see how, I don't see, it just, it doesn't make sense to me, this person that you're mentioning. Sorry, I'm kind of going
Hey,
into a rant, but
Max, yeah, Max, here's what we're gonna do, just because we're now an hour, 40 minutes into the call. Listen, guys, we appreciate you. Uh, there is obviously differences of perspectives on the project. And as a result, there are the community is going in different directions, and that has its own impact and effect on the project. And you're welcome to go get whatever information you'd like to get from wherever you are. But I would encourage you to recognize that there are more than 2 versions of any of this story. There's 4 or 5 other swaps that have their own story and their own reason why they represent the next iteration of Pengu. guys, we're at another crossroads in this project. I encourage you to do some soul searching, get some information that you feel you need to get. We'll be back on Wednesday again. We'll open up the floor. We'll have plenty of opportunity for questions. We'll do our best to get more information and more people to the call who can answer those questions. We're gonna call it a night for tonight, and we appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic evening. Join us again Wednesday night, same time, same address.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for all the great questions and
Good night.
answers.
Thanks for opening up the conversation.